Hey, this is Jeff Taylor with the Light FM's morning show. Now more than ever, the church needs to join the frontline fight for life. And today, Jonathan DeVore from Love Life Charlotte will be joining us in the studio to talk about how the church can step into the darkness and share the light of Christ. This is what hope sounds like. Well, Jonathan, thank you for being here today. It is so good to have you here. I want you to, if you would, introduce yourself and talk about Love Life Charlotte.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. My name is Jonathan DeVore, Charlotte City Director at Love Life. And essentially, the mission of Love Life is very simple. Love Life is uniting and mobilizing the church to create a culture of love and life that will result in an end to abortion and the orphan crisis. We want to see a shift in our culture in the United States of America and really across the world where men and women will stop running from the church to have an abortion, but they will actually run to the church. We see men and women that are leaving, they don't have hope. They're lost. They're desperate. They're scared. They don't feel like there's any other way. And we want them to know that there is a greater way, and his name is Christ, and we want to plug them into the local church as well.
What's the primary strategy that Love Life uses to engage the church and to be reaching out to folks that are considering abortion?
Sure. So it's really uniting and mobilizing the church because we believe this is a church issue. So what we do is during our 40-week journey of hope, so for 40 straight weeks, from February all the way through November, we are uniting and mobilizing the church. So for me specifically, my role as the director of Charlotte, I am proactively reaching out to churches and to lead pastors, mission pastors, to get them on board with the mission and vision of Love Life. And during that adoption week, what their role and responsibility as the pastor, when they say yes, when they've experienced the tragic truth, they know that this is at the heart of God, based on his word as well, is that on that Sunday, they actually will preach a sanctity of human life sermon, or they'll raise awareness in getting the commitment and educating the congregation of the tragic truth of what's taking place. And then from there, on that Wednesday, they're going to collectively fast and pray as a congregation. Then on Saturday, based on what took place on Sunday and that Sunday launch, they're going to collectively, as a body, to go out to the abortion center, not to shame and condemn, not to picket, not to insult or slander anybody, but we're there to do two things, and that's to worship and to pray. And if people can do those two things, then they can come out on this prayer walk. And then the fourth and final piece of that church adoption week is connect. We give people an opportunity for people to connect beyond the prayer walk. But it really does begin with the pastors. It begins with that church engagement. It begins with the pastors saying yes, and they're bought in, and then they can speak about it from a whole new perspective to their body at their church.
What have you seen God do through the church, or how have you seen God move through the church? Because the reason I ask that, I see the church being so divided and unable, it seems, to get behind singular ministry opportunities like this. Have you seen God open doors or move in ways that were surprising? What have you seen him do in the church when Love Life approaches?
Yeah, this is a ministry really of prayer, number one. So sometimes when you feel like there's closed doors with certain pastors, and it causes us really, when we're at the end of ourselves and there's nothing that really we can say or do to convince a pastor or convince someone, pray about it. Like the Lord will open up doors that he intends to open, but he invites us in to pray. And God has been very gracious to this ministry, really since 2016. Over 1,100 churches really across over 20 regions now, really from coast to coast, are a part of this ministry. And we're grateful for the pastors and the 1,100 plus pastors and churches that have said yes. And so just that alone, and there's been over 5,600 babies that have been saved. That we know of.
Wow.
These are babies. These are preborn, human beings that were scheduled to die, that had literally a scheduled death appointment, and now they're alive because the church was a prayerful presence, because they were even on the sidewalks calling out to the moms. So, and over 180,000 plus prayer walkers, 66 plus abortion workers have left the industry altogether, and we help them find new employment. They don't have to remain in this industry of death. So we help them find new employment. And there's just been so many testimonies. Moms choosing life. They're so grateful. The testimonies that we hear over and over and over again, just saying, thank you for being here. Don't stop what you're doing, because without you being here, I would have taken the life of my child. So we're seeing honestly, really, it's the church repenting of our apathy and complacency for our preborn neighbor, and it's turning them to a heart of not just repentance but revival. And we're seeing a great prayer movement really across the nation. And who would think that it's done at abortion centers? Like literally, people are being saved. I mean, over 700 plus professions of faith. I mean, just over the last year at abortion centers. So when you're having that kind of number, you're noticing and you see the fruit of the church being present at a place of darkness. And then really, we just need to let our light shine. We don't need to do anything extravagant. We just need to be there and be present and let our light shine. And that greatest place to do that is in the darkness.
That's incredible. So paint a picture of what happens on a Saturday morning. You mentioned churches are coming out. There's worship. There's prayer. What does the interaction look like? What's kind of an example of an interaction of how someone who is scheduled for an abortion is going there for that purpose, comes in contact with Love Life, and how does God work? What does that look like?
Sure. So what that looks like for the people that are coming out on the actual prayer walk, number one, it's part of our code of conduct. We don't engage with anybody at the abortion center.
Okay.
So because, you may have somebody out there for the very first time, and there may be a wave of emotions. There may be a lot of different things that they're feeling, they're experiencing that they've never even knew existed. So it's part of our code of conduct that people that come out on the prayer walk, they don't engage with the moms.
Okay.
They don't engage with people even out there that are opposing us, that actually just mock the church, and they don't want us to be there. So what we do is the greater, the end result of the prayer walk is, of course, we want to intercede. Of course, we want to pray for the end of abortion. Of course, we want to pray for God to perform miracles. Of course, all those things. But the purpose of the prayer walk is for people to really go beyond the prayer walk. And so when we lay out that connection piece at the end of the prayer walk, if you feel that God is calling you to go further, there are multiple ways. We're not just patting people on the back saying congratulations for choosing life, be warm and filled, and you're sending them on their way.
Right.
We are connecting them beyond the prayer walk. And then from that's where people can become sidewalk outreach members. Those are like the ladies and the men that are out there offering the last hope, the last ditch effort to be a voice for the voiceless for these babies that are scheduled to die that morning. So we have sidewalk outreach, people that have been affected by abortion. Prayer walks. We need laborers to be sent out there to help us for these 40 weeks, the 40-week journey of hope, to come help us and to labor with us to unite and mobilize the church. We want to see people entered into the orphan crisis. We want to see people become life mentors that are going to walk alongside these moms when they choose life. So it just gives them an opportunity to connect beyond the prayer walk. And then from that prayer walk, hopefully, Lord willing, if God is stirring in you to do something, to go beyond that walk, that's where we want to see more sidewalk outreach members. That's where we want to see more of these people that are rising up to help, take the fight for life seriously across this nation.
Wow. So, how did God bring you to Love Life, Charlotte? What's your story?
So my story, I lived, I was born and raised in Ocala, Florida. I won't give my age. No, I'm just kidding. 1978, born and raised in Florida, came up to North Carolina when I was 12 years old. My parents just never really could land at a church, so which ended up leading them to a divorce. And it was really, tragic for me. I was 16 years old, and from there I just became very angry and bitter at a lot of different things. So I turned to other things, substance abuse, and really led a life of rebellion and just complete destruction, running my own way. And, 24 years ago, I actually got a girl pregnant, and I actually drove her down to the abortion center, and I sat in the waiting room while she went through with that abortion. I was very apathetic towards the issue. I didn't really view it as my problem. I definitely didn't view my son or my daughter as my child. And I sat in that waiting room while she went through that abortion. And I still remember the look of that place. I still remember the feel of it. I remember feeling just a weight of even being there. I just felt uneasy, uncomfortable. And, so we did that. It destroyed our relationship. And then when Jesus saved me in 2006, in October of 2006, that was one of the first things that I remember is that, I remember my post-abortion, my past abortion. And that was a part of my testimony. It was a part of my story. And so for me, I became very much a voice for the voiceless. I had this deep desire to not only serve the Lord and to follow him, but also just almost in a way of just, letting the voice that I was not for my son or my daughter, I wanted to be that voice for other people so they wouldn't have to walk through that type of decision, that they would know that that is a child and that we actually want to help them. There's hope for them. There's help for them. And so for me, I became, very passionate about this issue. I would go out to an abortion center in Charlotte, the very one where I took the life of my child because it was my responsibility. And I started pleading with moms and dads going in there, letting them know that they didn't have to do this today, that we actually can help them, that that's actually a baby. It's not a clump of cells or tissues like the industry would, lie to you or want to believe, lead you to believe. So for me, I became very passionate about it. And then I started coming out to Love Life prayer walks. My church at the time was very involved with Love Life. It was like one of the core 40 churches. So very involved, and I loved coming out to the prayer walks. I loved the prayer movement because it was people have this preconceived notion of going out to an abortion center. What does this look like?
Right.
And it's people have this idea of picketing and shaming and condemning, and why would you harass the moms like that? And it can't be anything further from the truth. And we're out there to worship and pray. And so for me, I just felt so stirred. This was such a powerful ministry, and it's built on prayer. It's about being present. And so for me, 3 years ago, as Love Life was continuing to expand and continuing to grow to Greensboro, Raleigh, New York City, the director at the time was looking to become more of a regional shepherd and to oversee this expansion. And so they had a need for this new Charlotte City director. And after a season of being in corporate America, very successful in sales and everything else, I just spent just a season and a time just praying about this. And I accepted the position after it was offered to me, and it's been transformative in so many ways. It has grown my faith, and it is just a special ministry to be part of because I get to sit down, with pastors and broadcast companies and be able to raise awareness and advance God's kingdom. And I can't think of a better work that I would ever want to be a part of than to advance Christ's kingdom here on earth. And so it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. There's lows as well that comes with it because it's a spiritual weight and a battle to this.
Right.
But I am so thankful to be a part of this, and I'm thankful that I just laid my yes on the table.
This issue overall, the abortion life issue, for some reason, I guess understandably in some aspects, sort of breaks down as a male-female issue. Obviously, the mom, female perspective seems to have the louder voice, and the men are sort of relegated and gets minimized. I love your redemptive story and how God has used your personal experience. Do you see other men? Do you see God calling men into this fight more and more?
We do. I think for so long, since Roe v. Wade became an unjust law in 1973, that we see that for so long it was the woman and the child.
Right.
It was save the two. It was all about the woman and the child. And the men, for so long, I think, were often neglected out of the situation. But as you and I know, it takes two. And where's the father? Like, where's the father in all of this? Where's the dad? And so we're starting to see this new shift. And I feel very much I have a burden for men. I have a burden to raise awareness and to get the men off the sidelines. Because really men are called by God himself to be providers and be protectors of their family. Even for us as men to lay down our life for our family if need be. And I think for so long that the men have taken women, unfortunately, and used them as a ploy and to use them for their own selfish reasons, rather than view them as image bearers of God and to save even sex for marriage. It's beautiful, right. It's wonderful, but for the context of marriage. And for so long we've seen that, and now the men are starting to rise up, and I feel extremely burdened to raise this awareness for men to no longer just sit on the sideline, and for this to be a woman's issue. I believe wholeheartedly, and I say this all the time, that I believe this is a greater man's issue than a woman's issue.
Wow.
I really do, because I believe with all of my heart that if men were to take their rightful place, that God desperately desires men to be, and to be the leaders, to be providers, protectors of their family, that we would see a shift in our culture where abortion numbers would plummet because men would stop playing games with women, men would take a bold stance for life, and if they do find themselves in unplanned pregnancy, if they were to advocate and fight and to view that pregnancy, that's actually their baby. That's their son or their daughter. This is not a clump of cells or tissue. This is not a problem to discard, but this is an actual human being, their son or daughter. I believe wholeheartedly that we would see abortion numbers just plummet.
No doubt.
And I want to see more men rise up and to speak up about this issue, because many of the sidewalk outreach members that we have, many of the life mentors and so forth, and they're going to connect with women on certain levels and even restored life people that have been through an abortion. But the reality is men also need to come to grips that if this is a part of your past, if this is a part of your story, share that. Like, you don't have to live in the shadows anymore of your past abortion. You don't have to live in the shame and condemnation that Satan desperately wants you to stay in. Because you and I know when Jesus sets you free and he makes you a new creation, he wants to bring every dark area of our past, our present, our future, any of it. He wants to bring it to the light as we confess our sins to one another. So as we do that, that's where true healing and restoration happens. And I believe that if more men were to have that kind of perspective and that understanding, I believe that we would see more men rise up and to enter into this fight as well.
If someone is listening or watching this and they want to find out more, get involved either as an individual, sounds like there are many different roles or areas to serve in, if they want to get involved with Love Life, or if they want to introduce their church to Love Life Charlotte, how could they go about finding out more and doing that?
Sure. You can just go to lovelife.org, lovelife.org, and they can basically look at our website. There's a lot of different areas where we have prayer walks. Like I said, we're in 20 different regions across the country. So God's doing amazing work, and he invites the church in to be a part of this as well.
Absolutely. Amen. Jonathan, thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being here to share the story of Love Life. And God bless you guys. And thank you for watching What Hope Sounds Like. If this podcast has blessed you and meant anything to you at all, would you please rate and review, like and subscribe, whatever platform you're watching this on, to help us get the word out even more. And that is what hope sounds like.